Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of those games that people either absolutely love or completely bounce off, and honestly, I get both reactions. Because this game is beautiful, detailed, emotional, and also slow, frustrating, and kind of stubborn. I don't think Red Dead Redemption 2 is perfect, but I do think it's special as I consider it as one of my favourite games. And I think a lot of how you feel about it comes down to how you approach it and what you expect it to be.
Bastard shot my cousin! Well, he started it! I'm gonna break your neck!
Red Dead Redemption 2 locks the player at the start immediately with its slow introduction. The game opens in the mountains, in the middle of a blizzard, where everything is white, visibility is low, and movement feels even heavier than usual. You're cold, you're following orders, and you're boxed in by the terrain.
We have to try. Stay close. We'll do our best to stick to the trail.
For many players, this is where the frustration really begins. You're not free to explore. You're not free to go your own way. You're riding single file, listening to dialogue, doing exactly what the game tells you to. And this section can last up to 3 to even 5 hours. That's a bold choice, and also a very risky one. Because first impressions really matter, and spending your first 2-3 hours trudging through snow, barely able to see where you're going, is not what most people expect from a massive open world game made by Rockstar. It feels restrictive, it's scripted, and is the opposite of freedom.
You run into anybody else?
I reckon we're the only ones crazy enough to be out in this, Morgan.
Yeah, well, don't talk to me about crazy.
If you're excited to explore, the snow chapter feels like the game is putting its hand on your chest and saying, not yet. Everything you do is controlled. Where you ride, when you stop, when you shoot, even when you move forward. The pace is slow, the environment is bleak, and the color palette is almost entirely white. There's no sense of scale yet. No feeling of possibility, just survival. For some players, that's enough to make them quit before the game ever opens up. But looking back, it's clear this opening was doing something very deliberate. The blizzard isn't just a setting, it's a statement. You start the game trapped, desperate, and reacting instead of acting. You're not building a life, you're trying to survive the aftermath of a massive failure. The failure of Blackwater. The gang has already lost. You're seeing the consequences before you ever see the freedom. The game is teaching you, right from the start, that this isn't a story about rising up, it's about holding on. Why this choice is still a problem. Even knowing all that, the criticism is still fair. As a tutorial, the snow chapter is overwhelming. As an introduction, it's exhausting. And as a first impression, it's intentionally uncomfortable. Rockstar prioritized tone over accessibility. They wanted you to feel cold, boxed in, and powerless, but they also risked losing players before the game could even show its strengths. Some people never make it past the snow. That's not because they're impatient or not getting it. It's because the game asks a lot from them before it gives anything back. When the game finally moves out of the mountains and into the open world, the contrast is massive. Color returns, green grass, movement opens up and the pace loosens, and suddenly everything starts to make more sense. The game needed the snow to make the freedom feel earned, but that doesn't change the fact that getting there can be a struggle. When Red Dead Redemption 2 finally lets go of you, when you're out of the snow and the world opens up, something starts to feel different. At first, you probably still play the same way. You sprint everywhere and you treat the map like a checklist, and for a while, the game still feels heavy, but at some point, and it's different for everyone, something will shift. You stop rushing, you stop trying to finish things, you start moving through the world instead of just pushing through it. And that's when the game starts to breathe. You notice how often things happen without you causing them, how strangers will talk to each other whether you're listening or not, how some of the most memorable moments aren't tied to missions at all. That's when Red Dead Redemption 2 starts working the way it wants to. Not as a game you're trying to beat, but as a place you're spending time in.
Alright, easy now.
Once you slow down, Arthur Morgan starts to feel different too. At the beginning he could come off as flat, quiet, and gruff. Just another Rockstar tough guy. But he's not flashy for a reason. Arthur isn't written to impress you right away. He's written to reveal himself slowly, the same way the game does.
I found a place where we can get some shelter. Let Davy rest while he... you know.
It's in the offhand comments, the journal entries you might not even read, and the way his tone changes depending on how you play. He feels tired, not just physically, but emotionally, like someone who's been doing the same thing for too long and doesn't know how to stop.
I can still fight.
I know, Arthur, but just do it my way, honey. It's for the best.
And the more time you spend with just existing as Arthur, riding, helping people, sitting at camp, the more natural his story feels. You're not just watching his character arc unfold, you're living inside it.
You squirming little maggot.
The missions is where the game starts to show its age. This is where I think a lot of criticism is totally valid. The mission design in Red Dead Redemption 2 is very strict. You're often told exactly where to stand, where to ride, what to do. Trying something creative usually gets the mission failed screen, and that's frustrating, especially when outside of missions the world feels so open. It's one of the biggest reasons why the game can feel dated. You can love the story and still admit that this part hasn't aged well.
You won't get a damn cent from me.
Everything in this game takes time. Skinning animals, riding across the map, watching long animations play out again and again. Sometimes it's immersive, sometimes it's just fucking annoying. But over time you realize that the slowness is doing something very important. It makes moments feel earned. It gives weight to actions. It makes you feel the length of Arthur's journey. It doesn't always work, but when it does, it really does.
You want some too, huh?
Come on, pretty boy. Pretty boy? You're kidding me. Pretty boy?
Why rushing the game makes it worse. If you rush Red Dead 2, it can feel empty. The missions will blur together. The writing feels like filler. The emotional moments don't land as well. But when you take your time, doing side content, wandering, helping strangers, the story feels fuller. Not because the game tells you more, because you feel more connected to it. One thing the game does that could bother a lot of people is how little control you really have over the big picture. You can make Arthur kinder or crueler. You can help people, you can ignore them. You can be rolling in money as Arthur. But the overall direction doesn't change. At first, that feels very limiting, but eventually it starts to make sense. This isn't a story about changing the world, it's about how someone faces it when change is unavoidable.
Okay, Mr. Milton. I guess we're gonna have to talk this out like gentlemen.
The ending of Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't flashy. There's no big twist. There's no last minute miracle. There's no sudden power fantasy. It doesn't need any of that. It works because of all the hours you spent just existing in the world, riding across the map, listening to conversations, doing small things that didn't feel important at the time. By the time the end comes, you're not watching a story anymore, you're finishing one.
We all need to have a little chat.
If you play as Arthur with high honor, the only way I feel like the game wants you to actually play, the ending is so much more impactful. Arthur doesn't suddenly become a hero. He doesn't undo what he's done. He doesn't escape his fate. He doesn't get forgiveness from the world. What he gets is clarity. He finally sees Dutch for who he is. He finally understands the damage he's been a part of. Instead of running one last time, he chooses to help someone else survive. That's redemption. Not surviving, not winning, but choosing to do the right thing when it actually matters.
I got you now, Black Lung!
You rat! You rat!
I'm a survivor, Black Lung! A survivor!
That's all there is!
Living and dying!
What makes Arthur's death feel so powerful is that the game never tries to surprise you with it. You feel it coming long before it happens. The way he breathes, the way he moves, in the way he talks about the future or avoids talking about it at all. So when it finally happens, it doesn't feel like a plot twist. It feels like the end of a long, long road. And somehow, it works beautifully. The final ride is one of the best moments Rockstar has ever made. No gunfire, no chaos, just Arthur riding, reflecting, and remembering. The game gives you space to think about what you did, who you helped, who you may have ignored. It trusts the player enough to stay quiet. And that lonely ride, with the score, does more than any cutscene ever could.
Oh, you're a good man. I just wish you'd done it before he worked himself into the grave.
I'm really sorry for you, son. It's a hell of a thing.
And all you can do now is decide the man you want to be for the time you have left.
Arthur doesn't die redeemed in the eyes of the world. He dies redeemed in his own. And that's why the ending lingers, because it feels earned. It feels honest. It respects the time that you put in. When the screen finally goes to black and when Arthur's staring into the sunrise, it doesn't feel like you finished a game. It feels like you said goodbye to somebody you actually knew, and that's rare. Some people want games that respect their time. Some people want freedom above everything else. Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't fully offer either. Instead, it offers a very specific experience, one that asks for patience, and that's why it's so divisive. Well, I personally love the game. Some people wish the missions were looser, some people wish the systems were faster, and some people wish it respected player creativity more. But I don't think any other game can make me feel more connected to the world than Red Dead Redemption 2. I admit, the movement can feel clunky sometimes. It's not perfect, but it's sincere, and that counts for a lot. I cannot recommend Red Dead Redemption 2 for everyone, but if you're willing to slow down, to stop trying to beat the game, there's something very special there. This game asks for your time, your patience, and your attention, and in return, it gives you one of the most complete experiences gaming has ever pulled off. Not because it's trying to impress you every second, but because everything fits. The world, the story, the pacing, the characters, and the ending. It all builds towards something that feels earned. By the time it's over, you're not thinking about the mechanics or the mission design anymore. You're thinking about Arthur, about the gang, about that long ride. And that's when it hits you. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't just a great game, it's a rare one. The kind you don't rush through, the kind you sit with after the credits roll, the kind that stays with you. Thank you for listening.